as National White Cane Safety Day. And whereas the Wauconda Lions Club participates each year in the White Cane Safety Day, and will be collecting donations while handing out candy on Friday, October 9th, and Saturday, October 10th, at various locations in the village of Wauconda. Now, therefore, let it be said that I, Frank Hart, Mayor of the village of Wauconda and the county of Lake and the state of Illinois, do hereby proclaim October 15th, 2015 as White Cane Safety Day. Here's the Lions Club.
Oh, you're live.
Are we live? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Always live with Miss Irene. It's like my own show. Welcome. It's Miss Irene's show, but you guys can be on
Good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Lions. Woo! Go Wauconda Lions Club! Top Lions Club in Illinois! Woo! Oh, well, you know, it sounds right. Top Lions Club in Wauconda.
Hi, I just want to acknowledge the Lions Club of Wauconda here. Last year they were actually, next year, awarded the Lions Club of the Year for District 1F. It was a great organization, almost 60 members, donate all the money back into the community just last year, roughly $30,000. So again, Lions Club of the Year for Lake County and Northern Cook County as well. So thank you for all the work that the Lions do.
Thank you again for the Lions Club. And lastly, we have one more person we'd like to recognize. May I have Lori Emsch come forward, please? So Lori, as you know, is our finance wizard. And this year, again, Lori has achieved the Government Finance Officers Award for Audit. So we'd like to present Lori. For many years, she's earned this award again this year. So thank you again, Lori, for all your I'd like to move to public comment. First, the chair will yield 3 minutes to Maria Weisbrook. Chair will yield 3 minutes to the lady from Wauconda Township.
Mr. Mayor, point of information, I'd ask that we could direct my question to Administrator Maxheimer. Recent developments may shed some light on the comments that people are making, and in the interest of transparency, I think it's going to be appropriate for them to mention that.
Okay, let's see comments to make. You want to give me a microphone?
She doesn't understand the phone.
All right, just as a point of information, as we have pointed out, under the dispatch item under 10A, the item of business reads currently on the agenda, consideration and approval of a staff proposal to consolidate dispatch services and approve an intergovernmental agreement for implementation of consolidated dispatch. We'd like to scale that back a little bit this evening due to some recent developments and get some information presented to us at the 11th hour from somebody we've been talking with over the last couple of years, and we'll talk a little bit more about this during the presentation. But it's given us pause on moving forward on an intergovernmental agreement until we have a chance to review and consider that information. That is Lake Stewart. They have reapproached us and the Fire Protection District. They have removed some of the hurdles that the Fire Protection District had to be dispatched out of Lake Stewart. We'd like to take a step back, have a little bit of time to evaluate that proposal, put that together. However, we would like to have a formal consideration and approval of the commitment to pursue consolidated dispatch tonight. That is a formal signal that we need to, vendors that we're working with the providers that we're working with, that we can spend some resources, we're committed to moving this forward. So that item is changed a little bit on the agenda, so.
Okay. Chair will give 3 minutes to Maria Weisberg.
Maria Weisberg. Maria Weisberg, 25583 West Wilson Avenue, Wauconda, Illinois. I want to start out by thanking you, Mayor Barr, for contacting and engaged in educated public. 2.5 years ago, we were so often to be meetings of large events, so with so many that have done so much research into this matter. Let's hope that the net result is a more educated, unified group of residents and stakeholders pursuing our ability to achieve goals.
Louder.
I want to thank
Thank
our
you.
trustees for your due
More.
diligence and efforts to be informed before taking this very important vote. You have been subjected to some harsh words by some who are new to board meetings and village government and often leave after this single topic, repeatedly insisting on immediate votes based on incomplete 11-hour data, trying to sway you away from taking the time to research, review, and question data. You've asked legitimate questions, and while people were dragging getting you answers, that delayed you for a few months. Recently, 4 of you were overwhelmingly voted in because of your transparency on the issues and your hard work and efforts on behalf of the community. You did not take back money when it was offered, you did not resort to robocalls, and you were forthcoming and detailed in your correspondence to the public. Many surely appreciate that you follow the same path on this issue, but this is the way to move forward together. Thanks for your strength and steadfast resolve in this process. In regards to your vote tonight, regardless of this new inflation, I have 2 quick questions that come to mind. If you are voting to outsource at this time and solicit this information, why do you find the Lake County study, or at the very least the results of the independent IXP study, not worthy of review before your decision? And please explain exactly what SB 96 means to the village of Wauconda. We have yet to get an answer to that question. Thank you, and congrats.
Woo!
Chair recognizes Jessica Renaud. Shall we give 3 minutes to the lady from Island Lake?
Yes, we'll do the 2261 with Boulevard, Illinois.
Just
Please know, better.
louder.
Please know before I begin
More.
that I have full faith in the offices of the trustees, that each of you has executed your duties thus far with the absolute best interest of the residents of Wauconda. Unfortunately, I have no choice but to beseech the trustees to wait until the Lake County study is completed. If you do, you will learn that IXP has already informed Wauconda that we have the most up-to-date software radio system and equipment survey of construction. The reason for the state-of-the-art equipment was due to a referendum passed by the village residents to complete their core services locally, leading further funding to update and optimize our system for other agencies to be dispatched by the county. The Lake County Consolidation Study cost $355,000. Please, if you can convey Lake, I am all people would love to see this dispatch issue resolved. However, to gross service to your recipients of any Wauconda area emergency services, if you are not
Louder.
wait until the study is completed and published, I do not commit to any decisions thus far. Furthermore, I understand there's not question of our equipment performance in the 11th hour of your decision. I have been privy to the employee contacts, which are letters of commendation from their supervisors heralding their efforts and going above and beyond the call numerous times, consistently using terms such as professionalism, effectiveness, and up to the task. In truth, I would very much like to see solid concrete facts to show our dispatch center is inefficient or below operating standards, as soon to be claimed here by our village administrator. What's really happening is we're being told that a village department subpar with no real statistics from someone who did not observe our operations, who has presented ever-changing inconsistent figures, And I have absolute confidence that all of you have done your due diligence and done the necessary research to come to a knowledgeable decision tonight. I thank every trustee for your service and your dedication to getting these facts for yourselves, and for taking the time to determine what is right for the village of Wauconda. Thank you.
Woo! Jessica!
Shall we have previous to the gentleman from Wauconda?
Thank you. What is it? Thank you. You want it?
I'm just gonna date back where all this stuff started now. One time we had a big raise, they for the fire department. They for the fire department. And then all of a sudden, the village can't pay for it, so it's being separated. And there was another big raise right there. And they were made a promise that we would keep the 911 in the village. And if this council or whatever here can't abide by that, I think it's time we replace them. I mean, I've had to use the 911 here before, and we're well satisfied. So if they're looking for ways to save the money, I don't know what all these races we have around town cost, but I know there's a lot of overtime going into that, and a lot of extra people hired on with direct traffic and such. And I imagine there's a lot of other small places to save money. And who is going to do the extra things that people that answer 911 that do besides answering that? We're going to hire people to replace them, and then more money yet. People.
Thank you. Shall we give 3 minutes to the gentleman from Wauconda?
Well, the only reason I'm up here today is about our 9/11 memorial. We've had many people come there, spend time, and are very devoted to what's going on out there at that park. I know there's some negatives in this community about that memorial. And I will address them. If anyone has a question to me about it, I have no problem in answering anyone's question. One of the questions was about the signs up there. They say that the military wasn't allowed to 9/11. That's bullshit. That happened September 11th. October 25th, we were at war because of 9/11. How many people have to die around the world? To me, that's a shame.
Yeah.
We need to honor those people. We need to honor those families that lost their lives. And how many joined the military just for that reason? Some lost their lives. But if you go out to the memorial, every name is on that wall, including the police and fire. And the only thing that the military has is the Pentagon, which is holding up the V, because they're using nothing out there. And then the story goes with a captain right at that time. And many people have gone out there, and they feel they are needed out there. They're only temporary with asking this question. They're what they're thinking about. Not the story goes. Does anyone have a question? Apparently not. Thank you for your time.
Chair recognizes Patty Steppy. Chair will give 3 minutes to the lady from around the lake.
Thank you. My name is Patty Stephanie, 272 Prairie Spring Drive, Round Lake, and I'm one of your 11, not 10 dispatchers.
who stand to lose their jobs tonight. First and foremost, which I'll probably cry, but this is obviously an emotionally charged topic. Secondly, I'm going to tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to beg for my job. I'm going to believe that the trustees feel that they've received all the information they requested. They truly feel that this is the best decision for the residents of Wauconda. I'm also not going to bash or besmirch the reputation of the village board or any of the members of the administration. What I am going to ask is that Mr. McMiner and Mayor Bart refrain from doing the same to the members of the dispatch center. I understand you want to outsource communications to theoretically save money for the village. If this comes to fruition, I hope that's the case, but I don't believe it will be so. What I find distressing is that there have been statements made that we are not trained, unsupervised, and less than professional. We are supervised by a sergeant per shift and 2 sergeants in charge of communications. If we're such a poor center and untrained, why has this not come to light before? Where are the media reports of errors and negligence? Where are the personnel files? Where are the letters from the residents advising of our poor service and lack of knowledge? You say that CENTCOM will look at hiring a number of us. Why would they, or any other agency for that matter, hire any of us if we're so poor that we can bring down an entire dispatch center and cause it to fold? By saying that we're poorly trained, unsupervised, and less than professional, you're taking job opportunities away from us. You're making the dispatch center sound like a bunch of delinquent veterans that can barely answer the phone, much less perform emergency medical dispatch or CPR. We have one of the lowest turnover rates in the area, with an average of approximately 10 years of experience. Improvement, always. Could we benefit from more training? Of course, who couldn't? There's not a dispatcher out there anywhere that couldn't benefit from those things. Give us the things we need and let us shine until the county study is done. That being said, I'd like to ask the board to consider waiting until the study is completed, whether it be CENTCOM, Lakeshore, or Foxcom, I believe is also in the mix. If fiscal responsibility is the key, how responsible is it to switch over now and then switch again a year or 2 from now? We all understand that outsourcing is in the pipeline. We were recently visited by the independent consultants performing the study for the county, and they were impressed with our center. Please, we ask you to make no decisions other than to wait until the data is available and create a task force that includes police, fire, and dispatchers to review everything transparently. And lastly, rest assured that whatever the outcome tonight, my 10 partners and I will continue to perform our duties to the best of our abilities and in a professional manner. Thank you for your time.
Woo-hoo! Nice job, Patty. Woo!
I'd like to thank the board, trustees for taking the time together. What I hope is all the information needed for all questions posed about the 911 consolidation. We all have opinions on what to do next. It's our passion, what motivates us. One thing I would think that we can all agree on is we want to have acceptable quality, make a smart financial decision. That's why we should be interested in what the Lee County study says and how it's invested in the needs of the conduct. While we wait for the study to be done and the actions that follow, maybe a person or two can be assigned the task of marketing their dispatch center. To gain a few more police and fire departments, it certainly would help me down the debt the village still has, showcase us to others, and maybe even position us to be one of those hubs. Or one of several micro hubs that Lake County might recommend versus a small number of large central centers. Even if we're not going to be a hub, why make the move twice? Why should we go into this blind? The study being done, I am sure, would answer all these questions and then some. Doug, it's been over a year when we were trying for questions of mine, and you had to give me more departments than 200 center. I don't know exactly what you said, but it was some of the substance of what you wanted to make the Lake County study was complete. Why wait to bring in revenue when we have the opportunity to bring it in? Why was CENTCOM chosen and only CENTCOM? Why were other dispatch centers more or not looked into? When you want to make a big ticket purchase, a big ticket is different to everybody, whether it's a TV, a refrigerator, freezer, a car, or a home. Look at everything, your store, car dealership, anywhere else has a block. You get all the information as you can, do some of your own research. then look at what's best overall for you and make a decision. My word of other dispatch units do not look into or ignore. I believe people are financially smart, and I bet they don't buy the first thing that comes their way. Who wouldn't be in favor of shopping all possibilities, if nothing else, we can give some negotiating leverage? I don't like tax bills any more than anyone else in this world. Let's be financially smart.
Robin Lindbergh. So you have 3 minutes to Letty from Wauconda Township.
No. Hold on.
Thank you, Mayor Mark. Thank you, trustees. I believe consolidation is needed. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. I don't disagree with it. But let's not vote to outsource prematurely. With a fully funded countywide consolidation study underway, why can't we wait for the findings and make the right decision that's sustainable and supportable for many years to come? I support having a very thoughtful and thorough decision-making process on whether and now where to outsource the kind of dispatch services. Today, my feeling is that the process lacks transparency and inclusion of our residents as well as our township residents. There's so much misinformation out there. It's very hard to correct anything that's on the website, especially in the public social media domain. Facts seem to be elusive. What I still don't understand is why we haven't gone through a formal bidding process. I understand that there's only going to be so many centers we can consider, but through a bidding process, as Steve mentioned, additional facts, questions, and answers are going to come to light. Why aren't we receiving a proposal? With the bidding process, maybe we would have personally do it prior to the 11th hour. And why can't we have a fully face-to-face meeting of a resident town hall where we can all come together and talk thoughtfully as adults and get all our questions and answers taken care of. I ask the trustees tonight to be courageous and postpone this highly impactful decision, at least until the county direction is clear. Otherwise, any short-term gains will be otherwise totally offset by long-term costs and problems into the future. And hopefully all of you know, there's been an online petition circulating to ask the trustees as well as the fire district board to postpone any decision until we do have that Lake County study completed. There's nearly 200 signatures on that petition. I brought the petition writing as well as those signatures for you tonight. Thank you.
Thanks. So recognize third lady. So we have 3 minutes to the gentleman from Wauconda.
Thank you, Mayor Mark. Thank you for trustees for all your hard work. It's taken a lot of time. It's really at least 2 years now since we've been doing this process. It's been a long time. Anyway, I would also like to reiterate, I too, I'm on the Lake County Transportation Board, and I might not realize I'm up in Lake County, so I participated with all the construction projects going on throughout the village. I too would like us to wait until the Lake County study. I don't think we have all the information that you guys are looking for. They spent $355,000 on the study, which just started, which just announced that, a week ago. This will not be done until 2016 July. I would really like us to wait. And I also ask that you guys have really looked hard at all the options that we have for cutting our services. The 911 is a crucial service, it's a core service that we have in our town. That's one thing that we'd like to use to bring other people to us, businesses, corporations. It's a core value service that provides us just like Lake Michigan Water. It provides us with that benefit. And those guys are going to talk about with us. I have two young kids in our family. I really am grateful that we have a service in our house to us right now. If we don't, then we have to lay side worry about their future safety, especially with all the crime going on and all the guts to the schools. Our kids learning how to worry about that every day now with them. We're getting bomb threats left and right and everything going on with something that is happening in our area. Just all over the place with the music. I really need to sit down, take a look at what we need to do
but I really stress that we try to look at all options available to us and cutting all services possible, but using the most of our money. I am all for safety, and I'm all for what the county wants to do. If the county wants to do an outsource, the county will do an outsource. But I would like us to wait because it's no sense for us to do a double outsourcing opportunity. And quite especially in light with this new opportunity that I brought up today, I think that if you guys owe it to us not to make a decision tonight, because we don't know what that opportunity is for Lake Zurich. We would like to have that information look at before you guys look at it. So I think it's only fair for you guys to postpone the decision so we are made of light of what that Lake Zurich issue is. That's just not fair to the community, but I don't know what that issue is. I'm also a storm chaser, so I also try to make sure that everybody's taking care of the safety of my can. I go out and I see from I was out chasing the tornado on Grace Lake and seeing what that thing can do. And that thing brings the dog and down from all the way down through Wildwood to get some major damage. And that was a light tornado. That could be some serious damage. That was going to be a 3 or 4 tornado, which will happen in this time. It's only a matter of time for weather going up and all the weather changes. So I really am concerned with us using any kind of services. That ain't kind of one center in our area. There's other centers that are going to have to step up. But I really thank you guys for your commitment and your time, and I agree you guys to do your due diligence. Please wait to consolidate.
Thank you. Chair, will you Chair, you have 3 minutes to come for comment.
I want to talk about the 911 board also. Last year, almost to this day, my son, who is autistic, was having a meltdown. He was completely melted down. He was threatening to injure us and threatening to injure himself. We started fighting over the phone as I was trying to call 911. The phone got knocked out of my hand. The phone call maybe lasted only a few seconds, and I actually didn't believe the phone call went through. The dispatchers heard the fight over the phone. Since I have a New Jersey telephone number, they had to look up my telephone to find out what my name was. Then they had to ping the address, ping my phone to find out where my location was, cross-reference that with my name, and then 5 minutes later, Officer Jim McClain comes walking up to my door. He was my son's basketball coach. He knew what was going on. He knew the problem. He heard the name. He heard the address from our dispatchers, and he came to our door, and he was able to help us. My son was able to get the help that he needed. He was able to get the medicines that he needed, and prevented injury to himself and injury to us. So our dispatchers, I'm worried that we have SINCOM with thousands of calls coming in. If a telephone call comes in that only lasts a few seconds, it might sound a little bit like a struggle. How are they going to handle this? Are they going to do what our dispatchers do, or is the next call going to come in and they're going to answer that telephone call? Will Jim McClain be walking up to my door, or will I be stuck trying to handle my son and trying to call 911 again? The other thing that I want to say, it greatly saddens me tonight that we had 3 proclamations made. Last meeting, I asked the board and I asked the mayor to make a proclamation about the dispatchers who went up to Foxconn on September 1st and volunteered the day that Officer Glenowitz was killed. They went up there, they volunteered, they helped out at that center, and I asked them to make a proclamation to recognize them. There were proclamations made tonight, and it greatly saddens me that our dispatchers couldn't even be recognized.
Amen.
That's unforgivable.
Chair recognizes Mike Brown. Chair, you have 3 minutes, the gentleman from Wauconda.
Well, you know, I've always been an advocate of staying away from electronic technology simply because the technology is evolving so fast that, well, we saw $500,000 just for an upgrade. Not a new system, just an upgrade. 2 years we've been dancing with this stuff. And, you know, I like the idea that if Lake Zurich can come in and help us and give us a better deal than what we're getting from CENTCOM, great. But the bottom line, this Lake County study, you don't know what the results are going to yield from that. They could come out with completely new standards, and all of a sudden we're looking at another $300,000 upgrade or another $600,000 upgrade. The bottom line is this saves money with CENTCOM, and maybe we can save some more of the Lake Zurich, which is certainly worth it.
None of his statements are
But you
true.
know that we've got looming pensions coming. The state has cut off a lot of the revenue that was coming into Wauconda, and we have to make some tough decisions.
the study, I'm not sure what the study will yield, but if we can rid ourselves of the system, use the $500,000 that we use to upgrade as the down payment, it's a good, I guess what I'm saying is, there could be some harm in continuing to force all this out till July or June of 2016. Because there may be new standards, there may be new requirements, there may be upgrades that makes our system obsolete, and now we can't even get rid of it, we're stuck with it. All these things come into consideration on this. And the bottom line, this is just the beginning of stuff that you're gonna have to do to save Wauconda some money without us getting hit really hard. So anyway, that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Chair will recognize Jennifer Costas. Chair will give 3 minutes to the lady from Wauconda.
Good evening, Jennifer Costas from 226 North Main Street. I want to again thank all of you trustees and mayor for all the time and energy that you put into this, Mr. Nixon. I know that you've worked hard on it. It's been a couple of years that we've been talking about this, and I'm glad that we have Lake Zurich to go back and look at it again. But I believe that as a board that we would have by now looked into all towns that would have 50% of joining us. I can't believe that that would not have been done in this time frame while we've been discussing this. I believe that Mr. Maxheimer has discussed reasons why Wauconda would never be one of the centers that would be left when the county makes a decision to consolidate. And I hope that you will go over that tonight for people that maybe haven't heard that before. I am a blood banker. I work in emergency situations. When you do larger is generally better, more efficient, more cost effective. I believe that because of the technology that we're using, it doesn't matter if the center is here or 10 miles away, that the technology is there, that we're going to get the same response time from the fire department and police. I think the fire chief Dale has gone along with that. We know that a number of years ago that it was stated that the board would keep the 911 center here, but he has changed his mind with the changing of the times. So I hope that you will vote to go ahead, and I know that you're going to look into other options like Lake Zurich, but that you will get the vote to go ahead so that we can continue in this process. As a taxpayer, I know that it's $300,000 a year that we can save by doing this. I think every tax body in Illinois needs to do what they can to bring our taxes down. When you talk to people from other states, they are amazed at what our taxes are. I know that the village is only a small percent, but we are going to get into pensions in the next 5 years, and it will be over $1 million that we will be having to find monies. We should not be losing services with this. We should be able to keep the same good service that we get by looking at all the options that are available. At some point, we may either have to pay taxes or cut services. So I think this is our best option.
Thank you. Okay. Looking at the approval of the agenda, I believe we've already discussed whole business item A, consideration and approval of the staff proposal to consolidate dispatch services. And currently it says approved, and I think we should strike that to pursue an intergovernmental agreement for the implementation of consolidated dispatch. Are there any other adjustments to the agenda?
What was the wording you suggested at the beginning here when you were asked?
My exact wording was changing item 10A to consideration and approval of a commitment to pursue consolidated dispatch services with an outside agency to be chosen at a future village board meeting.
Village terms is the same difference.
And Mayor, we would also, for executive session, we have a final collective bargaining agreement for your consideration tonight that's not quite ready for review. And as such, we would also postpone the executive session interview until the second meeting this month.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion then for the approval of the agenda with the. Yes. Okay, chair will entertain a motion then for the approval of the agenda with the amendment to item 10A, striking approved to pursue, and with the item 14A and B, striking 14A and B from the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Trustee Knight?
Yes.
Trustee Barfini?
Yes.
Trustee Starkey?
Yes.
Trustee Armstrong?
Yes.
Trustee Black?
Yes.
Trustee Howe?
Okay, motion to approve consideration of consent agenda by omnibus vote.
So moved. Second.
Consent agenda.
Trustee Knight?
Yes.
Trustee Barfini?
Yes.
Trustee Starkey?
Yes.
Trustee Armstrong?
Yes.
Trustee Black?
Yes.
Trustee Howe?
Could you read the consent agenda,
I'm
please?
sorry. Apologize. Bills for payment for September 9th, 2015 through September 29th, 2015 in the amount of $308,965.64. Approval of the request to conduct the 2015 annual Wauconda Lions Club Candy Day on Village Streets on October 9th through 10th, 2015.
Motion to approve items A through D on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Knight?
Yes.
Trustee Barfini?
Yes.
Trustee Starkey?
Yes.
Trustee Armstrong?
Yes.
Trustee Black?
Yes.
Trustee Howe?
Yes.
Okay, old business, item A, consideration approval of staff proposal to consolidate dispatch services and pursue intergovernmental agreement for the implementation of consolidated dispatch. We have a motion.
But that's not.
That's not what you just did.
Wait.
Brad is going
Doug,
to.
I believe you have the presentation.
Brad is going back up the slide deck. Here you come, my normal, proposal.
You got it?
Thank you, Brad. All right, so this has been a very long, arduous process, and certainly no more difficult than any of our dispatchers, many of which are here tonight. I'll address this in a minute, but this is a highly emotional issue, and my apologies to anybody who has to suffer through a discussion about their job in a public setting. It's unfathomable that people have to go through that, and this has dragged on way too long. So please accept my apologies for that. Again, this has become a very emotional issue. What we've tried to do is take as much emotion out of this and have as much data as possible to answer these questions that the board has had. We've had a lot. We've provided reams of paper, and I think I've inundated CENTCOM and Lake Zurich and a number of other agencies with request after request, and I apologize to them for those repeated requests as well. So basically, why are we talking about consolidated dispatch? And there's that word performance, and I want to make a clarification here, and I made this back in February of 2014. When I'm talking about performance, I don't mean that as a slight to our dispatchers. That is a lack of organizational commitment to the oversight, the training, the quality assurance, quality control for dispatch services. We have left this group of individuals in our dispatch center somewhat out on their own here, without a whole lot of oversight, correction, quality control, and that is my point moving forward. We need to either commit additional resources to that center to get that to where we want it, or we need to pursue consolidation with another service provider that's already at the level that we desire to be. So that, when I say performance, please do not take that as a personal affront. I think we have several excellent dispatchers. We have some, in my discussions with some of our public safety officials, some of those dispatchers, not quite so excellent. So it shouldn't be a crapshoot who you get on the phone when you call for an emergency. We want a consistent quality of service, and that is what I'm talking about performance. We want to make sure everybody is getting the quality service that they need, and it's not dependent on chance on who you get on the phone. Again, we have some excellent dispatchers. Please don't think I'm slighting that. We have not committed as an organization to developing and cultivating a culture of excellence in our dispatch. And that's just one of many areas that we're lacking. And it's not the dispatchers individually. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, it's remarkable that they do as good a job as they do, considering the lack of resources that we provided for them over the years. So when I talk about performance, that's what I'm talking about. It's not talking about individual performance. So why are we talking about consolidated dispatch? There's two reasons. That performance that we just talked about, and then cost savings. We've seen several examples of consolidations throughout the county, successful consolidations recently. That's a statewide model, that's a nationwide model. This is not something new that we're trying to create. This is not going to be a public safety issue. This is just something that's happening all over the country and it's happening all over. So those are the two reasons why we're talking about this. Two basic questions. I like to boil this down as basic as I possibly can. And the answers to these two questions kind of dictate where we're going, what we want to do with this service. Number one, does consolidated dispatch negatively impact the safety of residents or first responders? If the answer is not no, we don't want to be part of it, because that's an unacceptable risk to jeopardize public safety to the public or our first responders out in the field. I happen to believe that the answer to that question is no, that we've seen this repeatedly in these consolidations throughout the state, throughout the county, that it's not jeopardizing public safety. So I believe the answer to number one is no. And number two, are there significant savings to be gained through consolidated dispatch? We've talked about that ad nauseum. I've provided reams of paper to the board trying to explain how those savings came about. I believe those are valid considerations, and we'll talk a little bit more about those coming up. But those are the two basic questions moving forward. From a financial perspective, the general fund, you've seen this slide before. This is a slide right out of our budget presentation. This talks about our 5-year budget cycle. We do a 5-year cycle to project problems down the road, and you can see a lot of red numbers on there, particularly starting out 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20. You add up those 5 columns with the red numbers in them, that's $1.9 million deficit over that period of time. That's a considerable amount of money, and that's not something you can change overnight. This is a status quo budget. This means that we keep the service in-house for dispatch. It also means that our revenues stay intact in the state of Illinois, and we know that those are under attack. We don't know exactly what that's ultimately going to look like, but we know that something could potentially become of that. This is the status quo budget moving forward, $1.9 million deficit over those 5 years. I apologize for repeating this information, but this is important to remember. This is why we're having this discussion. Somebody referenced police pensions earlier. This is also a budget slide that we talked about in our increasing pension obligations over the next few years. It's almost doubling from 2015 to 2019. That's a significant component of our budget. This slide we put together, this is a repeat as well, talks about police pension and employer insurance as a percentage of the general fund. It goes from 15% in 15-16. It goes up to almost 25% in 19-20 in our projections. That's over $1 million increase in basically taking that general fund money away from other purposes that we have to commit to these obligations that we have. So if we equate that to a household budget, say somebody has a monthly budget of $1,000. Today, they may have to commit $150 of that to utilities. At the end of this 5-year cycle or 6-year cycle that we have on paper here, that would be up to about $250, meaning they have less to spend on other things. That's the reality that we are facing with these increasing obligations. That is why we need to look for major cost savings in many areas. And it's not just dispatch. We need to look at a number of areas. So those are just kind of some reminders about why we're having this discussion from a financial perspective. And then this is the slide that we put together to show what the status quo would be, the top line there. That's the net cost. That's our overall cost less what we bring in for revenues. And then the next line would be the cost if we pursue consolidation. You can see how that shapes up over that 5-year period. And then you have a projection of what those annual savings would be through consolidation. The first year, this slide was prepared in, I believe it was in June. That assumed a decision would be made in September or implemented in December, and that we would have a cutover date on March 1st, 2016. That's obviously not going to happen anymore, but that was the assumption that we used in preparing that slide. So that came out to about $1.2 million in savings over that 5-year period. Now, I want to point out that does not include any impact bargaining costs. We would need to sit down and work out some agreement with the dispatchers on the displacement. What kind of impact bargaining would take for that? That would be a significant number. That's certainly not going to eat up that savings over that 5-year period. So that would be a one-time cost that is not impacted in there. I don't have an idea what that would be. We haven't talked about that yet. But if you decide to pursue consolidation, we're going to have that discussion at some point. So that's where the $1.2 million came from, and we went through and dissected that at our last meeting, I believe, line item by line item, where those numbers came from, and where we come up with that $1.2 million. For CENTCOM, we basically did a mini version of what the county is doing on their study, looking at technology, consolidation options, what would be an easy transition for us, what a long-term viable center would be, what the governance structure is, what the management structure is, what the financial capability of the organization is. We came up with a short list, so to speak, that we narrowed down with the help of the Fire Protection District. They're my technical go-to people on this. And we came up with CENTCOM as the most viable option for consolidated dispatch operations because of those factors that you see in the first bullet point there. That is our recommendation. The Fire Protection District is on board with that recommendation. And you'll see in a moment there's been some new information come to light that may give us some pause before we go ahead and accept that agreement. But CENTCOM is certainly a viable option for consolidated dispatch operations. Quality service, quality management, they also provide an opportunity for us for considerable savings. The board conclusion on that is to be determined. So then we have recent developments, and let me just give you the background on this. There's a task force that was called by Lake County. That task force is to review 911 consolidation efforts in the county, and that's working jointly or at the same time as the countywide study is happening. They had their first meeting, I believe it was 2 weeks ago on Wednesday. Mike Wall Chief Mike Wall from the Fire Protection District is on that task force. You'll see it at the table. And after the meeting, Leah Kelly from Lake Zurich asked both myself and Mike Wall if we could have an opportunity to sit down together because she felt that there was some opportunities for us to work on an agreement that would be more in our favor. I said, sure, we can do that. I was out of town last week. We didn't get to that meeting until yesterday. We had the meeting. We went through. Some things have happened in Lake Zurich. in 2013, 14, that was my primary choice for law enforcement dispatch operations, based on what I thought was the quality of operation, their strength of the operation, so forth and so on. At that time, I did not include the fire protection district in my analysis. That was my mistake. At that time, the fire chief in Lake Zurich had some issues with operating on the Quad 3 system that our fire protection district operates on. And there were going to be considerable fire protection district costs to make that transition to Lake Zurich. So what was a financial boon for us if we were to go to Lake Zurich would have been a problem for the fire protection district. Their costs would have doubled or tripled in that respective years. There's a new fire chief in Lake Zurich. He has embraced the Quad 3 system, which is what the fire protection district operates off of. And Lake Zurich is moving in that direction. There's a new police chief in Lake Zurich. That's from our original discussions back in 13, 14. And just overall, there's a willingness to migrate to what our fire protection district needs to be able to have fire calls dispatched out of Lake Zurich with little or no capital outlay required. So we had some very informal discussions. Lake Zurich provided some very attractive rates for the village and for Wauconda Fire. Again, these are informal discussions. These are along the same lines that what we heard for rates for the village back 2 years ago. Fire Protection District was pleased with what they heard. We talked about transition, what that would look like, what that would entail. It's actually a little bit of an easier transition to Lake Zurich than it would be to some of our other options. So what we are proposing, or at least what Lake Zurich has proposed, is that they will give us a formal proposal for both the village and Wauconda Fire pending the outcome of this meeting. So in other words, if there's a commitment for outsource, if there's a commitment to consolidation, they will invest some resources to put together some proposals and start working on some legal documents that will be able to facilitate this agreement. So again, the two questions: why are we talking about consolidated dispatch performance? The cost savings. I think we've documented the cost savings. It's your opinion on the performance, and I think you've done your own homework. So it's going to be your decision. The two basic questions. Again, does consolidated dispatch negatively impact the safety of the residents, first responders? To me, that's a resounding no. And then number two, are there significant savings to be gained through consolidated dispatch? So finally, what I'm asking for you tonight, from the board, is a commitment to consolidated dispatch. We read off the motion earlier, and that would be a consideration and approval of a commitment to pursue consolidated dispatch services with an outside agency to be chosen at a future village board meeting. And then at that future meeting, we would have consideration and comparison of those proposals and agreements for CENTCOM and Lake Zurich. And we would walk through the pros and the cons of each of those, as well as the cost analysis for those. And we can either do that at a full board meeting, we can do that at a committee meeting. As long as you're comfortable with the format, we'll get that information to you to do that. So again, what we're asking for tonight is a commitment to consolidated dispatch.
Okay, Chair, I'll motion for consideration and approval of staff proposal to consolidate dispatch services and pursue an intergovernmental agreement for the implementation and consolidation of dispatch. Any discussion?
We need a motion on the floor. So moved.
Second. Discussion.
Couple questions before Can you hear me?
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Doug, in your cover memo to us on this page, you mentioned there's a sentence there on page 46, from the second full paragraph that starts at the village board meeting. You say, exactly the second sentence. The IGA an addendum here, which is the idea that then of percentile, right?
Correct.
Will likely need some additional modification incorporating or addressing concerns by CENTCOM's board and legal team. Do we know what those concerns are?
We have not received those as of yet. The executive director of CENTCOM knows that we've asked for them. I believe she's asking her board for those comments before to us. Matter of fact, the CENTCOM folks are here tonight. Lisa Berger is here as well as Chief Mary. Sitting back there. Thank you for coming out tonight, by the way.
Will we get, depending on how the vote goes here, would we get those concerns and that information prior to taking any future action?
Well, we would have to, because any IDA that we would be asking you to approve would be asked to be approved at CENTCOM as well. And I'm certainly not going to present to you that I don't feel comfortable to be approved by CENTCOM as well.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the board?
I just have a statement to make. I thought about this a long time, done some research, and first and foremost, as an elected official, I want to ensure that there is long-term financial health and reduce homeowners' tax burden. And as Samantha stated, we all want to do a good job up here. With consolidation inevitable, and it being uncertain that our center would be a hub, with an open mind, I've really done a lot of research. I've talked to people, I've asked a lot of questions, and I wanted to make the best decision I can. I have 4 tax bills within the village, and I didn't become a trustee to raise my own taxes. However, I also feel that the most recent election, in many ways, could be considered a referendum on this issue, and voters responded 3-1. When I did some of my research, if you go to slide 4 of Doug's slide, I do have a different set of figures. Using his figures of the status quo budget, the comparison of options, it doesn't figure in calculating out the market price for our current customers. For the past several years, we've gone kind of month to month with them, and that's at an underpriced rate. And we provided our service at a great rate for them. They've gotten a great deal. We should have immediately upped their rate. And if we would have, that would account for about $140,000 per year extra income that we left on the table. And moving forward, for those 5 years, if you multiply that times 5 years, that amounts to a great amount of money. Also not included in this comparison of options is the severance packages. Not knowing what that would be, it's going to be at least $100,000, somewhere in that range, probably a little bit more. So actually, my figures, in the first year, we lose about $120,000. In the second year, we break about even. And in 2017 and 18, maybe we will start seeing some savings. That is if we've taken into account all the other options that an ancillary duty is factored to. For an average homeowner, that's probably about $10 a year. To put it into perspective, if we waited for the Lake County study, maybe we would have a little bit better direction. Okay, so I also learned about CENTCOM's team and ours. I visited CENTCOM, I visited ours. I also spoke with mayors and police chiefs that currently use CENTCOM and some of their ED customers. Many were satisfied. Some said they wish they would have kept it in the station house, and that now they can't do that. And something now, I visited our own facility. I met with some of the sergeants, and I met with some of our police officers and their supervisors. I find it incomprehensible that these people were not considered and brought into the conversation immediately. Instead of a balanced discussion, the information has been driven by management. I learned about the consolidation process through Lake County too. I was at that meeting a couple weeks ago. And it was very different than how we handled it here. I am impressed with the way Lake County and Chairman Lawler approached this matter with an open mind, diligent gathering of facts, and with everybody having a seat at the table, including dispatchers and fire defense dispatchers. They're working together, and they've committed, it may take some time, but they will have a very comprehensive study, I'm sure. We're also hiring a new police chief, and I'd like to make sure that we have our new chief assess the current state and lack of leadership and management that has been within our center, and try to market our center even a little bit, but also immediately raise our prices to our existing customers. You know, in conclusion, I think that Wauconda started out on the wrong foot on this whole thing in April 2013, when the mayor-elect, before taking office, before meeting with people, before meeting with the staff, made a priority to outsource, and it's been kind of a closed mind ever since that. No matter what potentially costs us, the residents, to chase the savings that we might see, we can't afford to be bullheaded on this matter. We need to have an open mind and adult conversations with everybody at the table. That said, going forward, I'm not afraid of a dramatic change if it yields dramatic benefits. But it's how I see it stands, $100,000 in 3 years is not a great benefit. And once we do it, we can't turn back. We've invested almost $500,000 in that equipment. Maybe we can get more money for it at a later date. I'm not saying we shouldn't do anything. I would like to immediately negotiate to increase our rate to our customers to reflect the market, train and better manage our current dispatchers. It's the right thing to do as an employer. Truly seek out a potential new customer. That's what Lake Zurich is doing. I mean, they're kind of doing the same thing that we should have been doing 2 years ago. And then have our incoming chief work with our current staff and Lake County's dispatch committee to get the best possible option. So, in short, I support our police department. They feel as though dispatch is integral to their job. That's what they told me. And I would like to keep our dispatch local until the county study is complete. So I would vote no on the consolidation at this time.
I share many of Trustee Starkey's concerns. I wanted to point out we've had a couple of residents, not only tonight, but throughout this long and arduous process, talk about their fear that someone at CENTCOM won't respond to their calls. That's a disservice to dispatchers everywhere. Our dispatchers wouldn't blow somebody off. I don't think anyone at CENTCOM would blow somebody off. Every dispatcher cares deeply about the person at the other end of the line, about the firefighters and police officers that they work with. I don't think any of them are going to do a poor job. So I really want to nip those conversations in the bud. As I say, our dispatchers don't like it when people talk poorly about them, and I don't. My guess is I know that some of these people, they don't like to see other dispatchers put down either. It's a tough job, and everybody does it because they're passionate about helping people. So let me say that right off the top. This is a time of great uncertainty for state funding, for our budgets, for what's going on with emergency 911 services, not just in Lake County, but throughout the state, throughout the nation. It is a great upheaval driven by rapid advances in technology that will, at some point in the very, very near future, allow us to provide services in a broad region from a centralized location. Some places have the technology to do that now. Lake County does not. We're getting there. That's the point of the study that's being conducted. At some point, I believe that almost every community in Illinois will lose local dispatch. That's just the way it's going. Whether it's 2018, 2019, 2020, it's coming. We've talked about that. We talked about that throughout the campaign, actually. It's a reality, whether you like it or not, it's a reality. So, the question isn't, should we consolidate? We're going to have to consolidate. The question is, where we're going to do. being asked tonight to vote to say, yes, let's get rid of our dispatcher and dispatch center and consolidate without knowing when or where or how. I appreciate that there's a projection out there that says we will save some money. I don't doubt that we'll save some money. But what are our long-term costs if we make a bad decision before we have all of the tools at our disposal, which means waiting until next summer? As Trustee Starkey mentioned, we have a new police chief. Don't know who it's going to be. We don't have names yet. But we'll be getting a new police chief sometime in the next month or so. That person is going to be the point person, or one of the key point people at the very least, on making any transition if we decide to start moving forward now. I want that person, whoever it is, at the table from the very beginning, not only giving us input about what they think is the best option based on their experiences outside of Wauconda. We may be bringing somebody in with experience in managing a changeover previously that can give us great insight. And to jump now without knowing what information we'll have available to us, I think is probably not a great idea. This person's also going to have to be making some very critical manpower decisions. Chief Bender talked a little bit about some of their preliminary plans regarding detainees and so forth, and I think they were great ideas, and I think they're great starting points. But somebody is going to have to be making these decisions about manpower, and I want our new chief to be the one making those decisions. That's the right thing to do. It's the fair thing to do, not only to them, but to the people that work under them. So I would agree that it is premature to say, yes, let's just pull forward on this. I think that we should encourage Lake Zurich to submit some sort of a detailed proposal that can be analyzed. If it's not reduced to a full-blown agreement because they don't want to devote the resources, so be it, but they can at least give us some pricing, some commitments, enough information that we can start comparing apples to apples on this. The fact that CENTCOM is interested in having us join them as a member is great. The fact that Lake Zurich is interested in selling their services to us is great. I think that, and I'm not talking about having a bidding war because I don't think that's the way it should operate, but it shows that Wauconda's business has value to other entities around the region. We're not talking about a long delay. Our savings don't really materialize in any significant form until at least the second year once we move forward with this. And I know there are some risks in waiting. The risks that our equipment will continue to degrade in its technological capacities relative to the advances out there and may no longer be a bargaining chip to avoid a buy-in at CENTCOM. That's a risk that we may wind up having to take. I also want to point out that the projected budget problems going for the next 5 years is in fact serious. We will be dipping into reserves at a rate that is counter to all good fiscal management. That said, we will still have reserves. We will not be in a position where we have to be raising taxes even 5 years from now. We know what the pension situation is going out 5 years. Actually, if you look at the 4-year to the 5-year, it dips very slightly in the 5th year. We do not have, at least last I checked, actuarial projections going out past that 5-year mark. So I don't know whether it continues to go up, whether it plateaus, whether it starts to ebb back down. The decisions that we're going to be making regarding this will have long and lasting effects. We are going to be faced with a second decision. If we move forward today, a second decision almost certainly within the next 2 to 3 years. There are always transition costs. There will be transition costs in terms of manpower, in terms of disruptions to how people go about their business here in the village. With any changeover that we make in the next 6 to 8 months. There will be transition costs involved if 3 years from now, 2 years from now, the county comes down and says, CENTCOM and all of these other organizations have to combine into more, or I should say less centers. So, with all of that said, the uncertainty of exactly what we'll wind up facing in this 2 to 5 year range and beyond forces me to say, at least in terms of this vote tonight, I can't in good conscience vote to say we're getting rid of our dispatch center in the near future. Now, it is something that I also think that we should at the committee level. That's the way things always work. We talk about things in committee where we have the time to dig down, to drill deep into numbers, to do the investigation, to call people in to give us testimony, their opinions, their input in a less tension-fraught environment. They are open to the public. Anyone can still come and participate and observe those committee meetings. But what I would like to see is this to go back to where it should have started in the first place, which is the committee level. And then the committee comes to us after all of that number crunching, all of that drilling, all of that questioning, and makes a recommendation. That's the way governments work. It doesn't start at the board level. So what I would like to see going forward is that we start with the committee level, analyzing the prospective proposal from Lake Zurich, getting a good side-by-side comparison, apples to apples, as best as possible, with the proposal with going to CENTCOM, and then come back to the board and say, we've really done our homework on this, we have asked all the questions, I know you may have some additional questions, but we really believe that going forward, this, whatever this is the best way to protect the economic interests of Wauconda and the public safety considerations of Wauconda. Thank you.
Other comments from the board?
Go ahead, and I have
Okay.
questions.
Okay. Questions or comments? Okay. Doug, you were, and I think, starting, possibly some people in the audience, you were at that, meeting that Lake County hosted, what was it, a week ago?
2 weeks ago tomorrow, I believe.
Okay, did they give any timeline regarding when they thought that study would be completed?
They did not, at that meeting, they were reluctant to, put a target end date on that. However, they do have had a one-on-one discussion with the deputy township administrator. She is in charge, she was in charge of the proposal that got the consulting firm to write the report. She's also in charge of implementing that contract. Initially, that was supposed to be a 6-month project March next year. But she qualified that by saying that she could
that market. We were told last year, when we were started that it would have been done by March.
Yeah, they've only been working on this for a few weeks now, six weeks or so, I think is what they said to me. However, she qualified that by saying that Chairman Lawler is very concerned about stakeholder involvement, wants to make sure all of the agencies that are affected by this, all of the managers, communities had a chance to read those draft documents as they are prepared, provide comments, and then to work with the contractor on what the final document would look like. So she is projecting that this is going to be done sometime in June or August, summer of 2016, and that date, she said, would be probably the best case scenario.
How does that play out with Senate 96 and some of their deadlines? They have a July 16 deadline plans to be submitted. That's what I suppose.
Well, I had heard that on Senate Bill 96, that's now public act. I don't proclaim to be an expert on that. I've heard a variety of opinions on that. From what I have heard, there is a requirement that a plan is in place for consolidation in the summer of 2016, and that implementation of that plan needs to happen in the summer of 2017. That's the best information I have.
Okay, Ken, I think
Real quick, Doug, where do we stand on the police chief? Did we hear back from the,
Police chief search, they are doing the individual one-on-ones right now with those candidates that met the qualifications. They put it together a report based on that, and then based on the contract that is due to us by the 15th.
and then the process is they come to you or review?
There'll be an initial review process. We'll narrow that down to 5 candidates. We will invite the candidates in for interview process with the board. The board narrows that down to the final 2, and then the mayor makes a recommendation to the board on the final candidate of those 2.
So what's your time?
I have all along said that I thought the second meeting in November, we hope to have some kind of recommendation for it.
And just getting back to trustee Starkey's something.
Well, trustee Strickland was at the meeting going over the adjustment of our rates to market rates and how that could potentially impact our existing clients. I would be very concerned that if we moved our rates to market rates, that we would risk potentially losing at least one of the public partners. So I'm not sure that that scenario that she portrayed would play out. I would be concerned that the revenues would dip considerably for that. The severance package, that's what I identified as the impact bargaining cost. That's right on. There's going to be a one-time cost on that. Could be 6 figures. Could be a little bit more than that. Could be a little less than that. I don't know.
All right.
Other comments from the board?
I did not have that meeting as well, and I included it with as well. I was getting new issues with, or not issues, but items being served is of concern, and obviously with that, potentially saving even more money. If you recall, a year ago, we sat in the village hall, and I had spoken out that I wanted to wait until the county study. As trustee Barbie said, we thought it would be done this past spring. Here we are a year later, and it's just getting going. I do like, as trustee Starkey had mentioned, the way that they're handling it. I'm concerned that it will be done in that time frame that it's expecting right now. It will have been done in the spring or the summer, but we're going to prolong any further than that. We have a lot of red numbers opening up on the budget. And at the same time, I think we owe it to our dispatchers as well, for their good. So they know what's going on with their future. They've been hanging in limbo for quite a while. And I think we may have to take a look at doing this, especially with Lake Zurich. The chief called today. I also spoke with Dave Geary with the fire district. They're confident that they're going to get some good numbers as well, as Doug had mentioned tonight. So I think this is something that we really need to consider seriously.
Other comments from the board?
This may be a bit more close than what we stopped, so please bear with me. Over the past 18 months, I've listened to many comments on the topic of consolidation with dispatch service. You have to say our stakeholders in the talk. these meetings basically what committee of the whole meeting where information is presented several times right here in this very room. Okay? So now's the time for me to share my thoughts on this. Okay. I recall a statement made during public comment at our September 1st, 2015 board meeting, when someone said the decision to consolidate dispatch service is a simple one. Well, on the surface, the decision to consolidate dispatch seems simple. It's based on the two factors that Mr. Maxine shared. No, I didn't see a PowerPoint in advance. On the surface, it does seem simple. Can consolidation save significant money? And is safety of emergency responders and residents compromised? Given the data prepared by Mr. Maxine, the answer to question 1 is yes. Significant savings will result from consolidation. I'd like to elaborate that he went also on to say, and he answered Trustee Starkey's question just a couple of minutes ago, he showed at that meeting what it would cost if we were to obtain more customers for this service. It becomes I guess you could say, almost a self-defeating concept. Folks, we bought into a bad business plan. I'll be frank. There's 2 votes as a trustee I wish I could take back. One was the vote to upgrade our center and not pursuing outsourcing at the time. Okay? I can't change that. It's happened. Second vote had to do with us postponing the decision to join CLC Jowl when we were faced with that month. But I don't want to go down that road. We're not talking about that. We'll be on that. Given the data prepared by Mr. Maxiner, yes, the answer is yes. We will have significant savings. Okay? These savings were verified recently when Mr. Maxiner, Chief Wall, met with representatives of Lake Zurich to discuss a proposal they would like our village to consider regarding dispatch services. In other words, we're not just getting information that's falls under due diligence from CENTCOM that we can say, we're getting it from another source. Consolidation, in my opinion, saves money without crippling the other 4 services of this building, such as making cuts in police, snow removal, road maintenance, and water and sewer operations. And forget about putting a ban on overtime. I tried it in the school district. Believe me, it doesn't work. When things happen, you need staff on the street or in those squad cars. So overtime is not going to be it. So, in my opinion, finding similar savings elsewhere in the budget is just not practical. As to the safety issue and researching this matter with other emergency responder professionals, one of whom is right here on this board for 30+ years in the fire service, I'm confident that consolidation will not compromise the safety of emergency responders for our residents. Also, as Mr. Maxine said earlier this evening, other consolidations did not impact public safety. Given these answers, one would ask, why has it taken so long, almost 18 months, to arrive at a decision on this matter? The answer is complicated to say the least, but here are 2 factors that have had an impact in extending this decision-making process. Factor number 1, we've heard it tonight, many times, the Lake County consolidation study. We previously heard from some individuals, as well as again tonight, that we should wait for the Lake County consolidated study to be completed before taking action. Originally, we thought this study, as I said earlier, would be finished last spring. Now, we are told that the completion date has been moved back to sometime in 2016. The bottom line is that we know consolidation is coming, but we don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know the specifics because this study is a work in progress. As a result, I cannot believe we can wait for this study to be completed and postpone savings generated by consolidation. Why? Because our long-range financial projections, seen some tonight, show a gloomy financial future if we continue continue to postpone a decision to consolidate. Essentially, our fund balances, our reserves will be eroded. If these fund balances erode, the financial future of this village is threatened, resulting in a corresponding decline in quality core services provided to our residents and our district. Factor number 2 relates to doing our due diligence to evaluate the issue of dispatch consolidation. For 18 months, this board has listened to the pros and cons of consolidation expressed by the public. Again tonight. And some of those concerns have not changed over the past 18 months. As a result, we have sought answers to many questions, asked questions ourselves of staff and other professionals in the area of public safety, and evaluated various providers of dispatch services. Most recently, the meeting that occurred yesterday between our staff and the fire district and Lake Zurich. This process has taken time because we want to objectively weigh the pros and cons of consolidation. Our staff, led by Mr. Maxiner, has been diligent in providing the information to this board and the public regarding our budget projections and addressing the many questions asked by the public and this board on this topic. Related to the issue of due diligence is the concern that this board has about impacting the livelihood of our dispatchers. Trustee Knight alluded to it earlier. With the move to consolidate dispatch service, we know their livelihood will be impacted. This weighs heavily on the mind of every board member. It is not taken lightly. We know that consolidation will cost them their jobs here. But delaying this decision until the Lake County study is completed keeps them in limbo. It's a tough situation, but we as a board must weigh the welfare of the few against the welfare of the many. Hopefully, taking action tonight regarding consolidation will put our dispatchers ahead of the consolidation curve that we all know is coming. That is small consolation, I know, for our dispatchers, but they will know where they stand and evaluate their options, which is better than not knowing their future if we continue to avoid making the tough decision. Could this whole issue have been handled differently? Perhaps, but as we all know, hindsight is 20/20. But in the end, the savings generated by consolidation of dispatch services are too great to ignore. Do we have answers for every possible contingency resulting from the Lake County study and Senate Bill 96? Probably not. But postponing a decision on dispatch consolidation will cost more money and will likely open up new reasons for avoiding taking this tough action in the future. We cannot afford to wait for the Lake County study. We can't hide behind it any longer, okay? We can't afford to wait for the sun, the moon, and the planets to align perfectly. We have to make a decision. That's why we were elected to do the tough jobs. We must base our decision on the data that staff has worked so hard to objectively provide us. Make our decision to consolidate and move on to the next phase of evaluating which dispatch provider, CENTCOM or Lake Zurich, would be the best fit for the county. Other communities have made the decision to consolidate dispatch services and have successfully moved on. Are we really that different from them? I don't think so. Time for us to move on also. In my opinion, kicking this can down the road by postponing a decision to consolidate dispatch service is not fair to our residents, it's not fair to our dispatchers, and it's not fair to our town's financial future. Therefore, I'm prepared to vote in favor of pursuing the consolidation of dispatch services with an outside provider to be considered at a future meeting of the school. Thank you.
Black, did you have any comments? Everyone else has spoken. I just wanted to know if you had a chance to go ahead and say
I do not have a prepared statement, but needless to say, this has been on our minds, as everyone has spoken about before me. All the comments that have been said here tonight are true. Each and every one of them covered all the numbers, all the thoughts, all the processes. And yet, whether you want to go a year and a half, we find ourselves back in the same spot, or if you want to go back and say we really started about 2.5 years ago, when we realized we had some problems. I've spoken to numerous people as well, not only friends and neighbors, but also Chief Wall, some other people in and around. I've been to CENTCOM, and I've been to our center as well. I do believe that consolidation is coming. Whether it comes now, tonight, comes in 2 years, comes in 4 years. I had hoped all along, like everyone else, I believe up here, that I was waiting for the report. The report that I believe is supposed to be already. Now we're hearing it's next summer. Going back to Trustee Barbie about kicking the can down the road. I do believe that we do have to make a decision. I do believe we have to make that decision tonight. I do not believe the safety is going to be an issue. I also believe that this whole situation, I agree some others have stated before me, this has been handled horribly from the start. We cannot go back, we cannot fix that. There's nothing we can do about any of that but move forward. And to just keep my comments short and to the point, I believe that after going over all the information, talking to everybody, and looking at the financial numbers and everything else that Dr. Barbini and others have spoken to, hearing all the answers that Administrator Baxheimer and staff have answered for us, if we've given them list after list after list, trying to get all the right information to make a decision. I am prepared to make a decision tonight, and I would vote Eversource.
Okay. Okay. Other comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Knight?
Yes.
Trustee Barbini?
Yes.
Trustee Starkey?
No.
Trustee Arnfall?
Yes.
Trustee Black?
Yes.
Trustee Howe?
No.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item B, the request for authorization to approve forward funds up to the amount of $1,153,618 to the Central Lake County Joint Action Water Agency for the preliminary engineering.
Thank you, Mayor. Included in your packet this evening is the preliminary engineering and scope of fees for the Lake Michigan Central Transmission. This scope and fees was presented to Westford Technical Committee meeting, as well as the Central Lake County Joint Action Waterway Agency Board of Directors. At this
Give me
time,
1 second, Director. I think I have to catch a flight, so I'm going to have the President Pro Tem, Trustee Knight, take over the meeting as chair.
Seriously? Howard. He doesn't want to face you guys after them.
so at this time, COC Jawa is now requesting that the village initiate deposit funds to begin this phase of the design. If you recall, the agreement between Vogel and Wauconda states that Wauconda will make the additional required deposit to CLC Jawa for an amount not exceeding $2,500,000. It's also important to note that therefore, your authorization for the board to approve the deposit of $1,150,618 to COC Jawa for preliminary engineering for distribution.
Thank you, Brad. Board, any comments or questions? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Can I get a motion to approve?
That's all right about